Welcome to another installment of Deconstructing Babylon, where I use a biblical framework to discern the signs and symbols of the mystery religion of Hollywood Babylon. If you clicked on the video, you already know that today we're deconstructing the dark comedy horror Beetlejuice. It's not from the 90s, as is my typical fare. It actually was released in 1988, but the sequel is being released this year, 36 years after the first. The Video Movie Guide gives Beetlejuice 3 stars and says this: like a cinematic trip through the Haunted Mansion, this film may require 2 viewings just to catch all the complex action and visual jokes. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis play a young couple who accidentally drown and return as novice ghosts. The family that moves into their pretty little Connecticut farmhouse seems intent on destroying it aesthetically, and the ghostly couple are forced to call on the evil Beetlejuice, rated PG. Tim Burton, as we know, is at the helm here, and he will go on to direct Michael Keaton as Batman the following year. Beetlejuice is the name of a red star in the night sky, specifically the eastern shoulder of the constellation Orion the Hunter. Let's see what we can discern in Beetlejuice. The movie opens with a view from above as we fly over a dense forest, a small town, and a house on a hill. It's all a replica built by Adam Maitland, who happens to be wearing a black and white checkerboard shirt. We also meet Adam's wife, Barbara, and learn the two are having a staycation and getting projects done at home. Their home is a hot commodity, apparently, and the Maitlands are used to chasing away would-be realtors.
2 weeks at home, the perfect vacation.
Jane says we should sell the house to someone with a family.
After a quick jaunt to town for more supplies, the happy couple have a fatal car accident when Barbara swerves to avoid hitting a small dog, and they end up in the shallow river. The fact that this orphan dog is responsible for their death is not lost on me. It's a director's trademark, and the dog never comes back again, but its presence seems clear. Adam and Barbara find themselves back at home, warming themselves by a fire they didn't start.
Do you remember how we got back up here?
And when Adam tries to leave the house, he ends up in a desolate place inhabited by sandworms. Time works differently there, and his momentary absence feels like 2 hours for Barbara, who has made some interesting discoveries. They finally come to an acceptance of their mortal state, but they have only questions about what comes next. They rely on this difficult-to-understand handbook, but if they had read the Bible when they were alive, they'd know about heaven and hell and wouldn't have these questions.
I don't see anything about heaven or hell.
So they are disembodied spirits, evidenced by their lack of reflection and the fact that their bodies would still be in the car in the river. Yet they maintain a physicality that shouldn't be possible, as in they can interact with the things in their home.
In the book, rule number 2, the living usually won't see the dead.
Their home is listed and quickly sold, purchased by the desirable family, Delia and Charles Dietz, and their teen daughter, Lydia. In the book of Acts in the New Testament, a certain woman called Lydia is mentioned as being the first to believe in her region. She opened her home as a gathering place for the early church.
I could live here.
Charles desires the home acquisition to be a countryside sanctuary, an escape from the city. But Delia enlists the help of her designer Otho to realize drastic changes.
If you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me!
Adam and Barbara are completely blindsided by the takeover of their home since they haven't passed on to the other side and they can't leave. So they decide to scare the new occupants away to leave, as one does when you're in disembodied spirit.
Yeah, ghosts of the people who died in this house. They want us out of here.
The Maitlands finally try to get some help or understanding about their situation. They use the handbook to open a portal to the underworld, the place of the dead. Wherever it is, it has the green hue of a Disney villain. And they are told that help is hard to come by when you're dead.
You just bit the big one 2 months ago and you want help. You're going to use up all your health vouchers.
So while they're in the other place, Lydia follows her curiosities into the attic, where the disembodied spirits live. Not live. Where they stay? The ghost's lair?
Is this what happens when you die?
The answer here is subjective. Death is different for everyone. The place of the dead is here imagined by Tim Burton is bureaucratic in nature and surprisingly organized.
That's the lost souls room.
So Juno is their caseworker and is one of the names of the Queen of Heaven. In Roman theology, she is the daughter of Saturn and sister and wife of Jupiter. When they finally meet Juno to get some answers, they return to their home being completely transformed. They haven't been gone that long, so how is this possible? Perhaps time is also broken in the place of the dead, or it is already operating in time eternal. Adam and Barbara ramp up their efforts to scare the Dietzes away from their home with very little effect.
I feel so stupid.
It's not stupid, Barbara. We're ghosts.
Until they discover Lydia can see them and hear them and help them.
Well, how is it that you see us and nobody else can?
Halfway through this 90-minute romp, and we finally meet the titular character. Till now, he's been alluded to and talked about just like some cryptic mystery. His grave is set on a hill under a tree. Despite his name being said 3 times, Adam and Barbara still need to work to set him free. They must dig him out from a counterfeit grave, and the creature they release is undesirable, to say the least. So much so, the Maitlands doubt they want the kind of help Beetlejuice can give them.
Look, we've been to Saturn. Hey, I've been to Saturn.
Saturn is apparently the wasteland with sandworms that exists right outside their door. Funny that we were just talking about Saturn. Saturn and Saturnalia contain very meaningful symbolism within the mystery religion. It represents Satan worship, black cube conspiracies, counterfeit Sabbath on the 7th day of the week, as it is named for, and also Christmas. Many don't realize how much Saturn and its worship has infiltrated our modern world. The sandworms that reside there seem to represent little devils, as the Sandman is a metaphor for the serpent that God cursed to slither on its belly.
I think we can scare them off ourselves tonight. I have an idea.
The dinner party is one of the most memorable scenes in this or any movie. This was Barbara's plan? To poltergeist? When did they learn this? But rather than scare the guests and occupants away, they are further intrigued by their shared paranormal experience.
I think the reason is that they were trying to scare you away and you didn't get scared.
The guests leave not in fear, but rather doubt. Something miraculous has happened and they demand more. But the Dietzes are not deterred. This is their house now and they won't be scared away. In fact, they'll capitalize if they can.
Now, let's turn on the juice and see what shakes loose.
Beetlejuice now intervenes, being the bioexorcist he claims to be. And in his serpent state, he sets his sights on young Lydia. He's swiftly sent back to his artificial grave where he somehow creates a new business. So it's been a minute since we've seen a Dante's Inferno reference. I think the last one on this channel was Twister. Here it's depicted as a lust-filled place, a den of whores, which actually represents the second circle of hell, where mutual participants are given over to their wicked desires. Nevertheless, Adam and Barbara are whisked away to the offices of the dead to get a talking to from Juno. And Otho was right about suicides being civil servants.
Never trust the living.
Lydia finally meets Beetlejuice as she's planning her own eternity as a civil servant. It may need to be a euphemism I use from now on. She has a fascination and curiosity with death and dying that is rather unexplained. Just that she's strange and unusual, and she desires to die so she can be with Adam and Barbara. Meanwhile, Barbara laments scaring the Dietzes because of Lydia.
Adam, I want to be with Lydia.
This is the first time the whole movie she's expressed the desire to be a mother, but okay, I'll play along.
Being dead really doesn't make things any easier.
The Maitlands resign to allowing the Dietzes to be there together in peace. And they do mean peace. They aren't willing to be exploited. I mean, they're dead. Whatever. I did happen to notice this painting behind Otho earlier. It's strange, but not like the rest of the art in the house that Delia creates. It seems like a painting of Adam and Barbara as spirits. What do you think? So 5 of them sit around a table to perform a ritual to raise the dead. None of them are experienced in this type of witchcraft except for Otho, who's using the stolen handbook for the spell. So despite being amateurs, they managed to resurrect the dead couple in their wedding clothes.
They're dying!
And with nowhere else to turn, Lydia asks Beetlejuice for help and he makes a deal for himself. In order to be set free from his prison of death, he needs a bride, and he intends to make this child one.
It's showtime.
Beetlejuice takes over with his bioexorcism and evicts the strangers, and all it takes to scare Otho is a polyester baby blue leisure suit. And what can I say? The 80s were a wild time. His part of the deal done, Beetlejuice seeks his bride, who wears red. IMDb tells me this is a nod to the old saying, married in red, better off dead, but I know of Asian cultures who see a red bridal gown as a good omen. I actually think this is instead a reference to the fact that Lydia is hitching herself to the Red Star.
Yes, I love that man.
Adam and Barbara come to and fight back against Beetlejuice, sending him back to his prison of death. The Maitlands and the Dietzes find their peaceful cohabitation, practically co-parenting Lydia, and the final image we are shown is a Catholic schoolgirl levitating while the spirits of a football team backup dances. I can almost guarantee that the recent sequel is much darker, much more sinister, and is more blatant about the Saturn symbolism than we saw here. And despite the title, I don't think this movie is really about Beetlejuice. He has no character arc, he has no backstory, we don't even know his motivations. So I hesitate to label him as either the protagonist or antagonist. He's just a star, a shoulder shrug of a former warrior, and a prisoner of sin and death. Bethel, in his name, is Romanized Hebrew for Bethel, which means house of God. It is an important place in the Bible, being a place where Abram camped for a time, where Jacob built an altar after Yahweh opened up the heavens, and where he was renamed Israel. The city was originally called Luz and was found in the land of Canaan, but doesn't exist today. The other house in the movie, the only house in the movie, in my opinion, is the main character. It first houses Adam and Barbara Maitland, the childless couple who seem a counterfeit of sorts of the first couple, Adam and his wife. I say his wife because she was not named Eve until after the fall of man. So Adam and Barbara die together, and they are unknowingly sentenced to spend 125 years in the house. But 125 based on what? Because time works differently both in the place of the dead and outside the house. So when they try to leave, Saturn is outside their door. And I talked about Saturn symbolism a little bit. He is one of the 7 wandering stars in the firmament. He is known for abundance and peace, is the god of time, and is known as Saturn, Satan, and Kronos, the god of time. I think the meaning here is that what is true in the spiritual is true in the physical. Their house was always in the clutches of a wasteland, spiritually speaking, a hopeless place where time is broken and they are oppressed and threatened by a serpent. When the Dietzes move in and change everything, the house becomes a portal between life and death, between here and there, and who else knows what lies beneath? I mentioned Lydia from the Bible being a woman who hosted the early church in her home. This Lydia, strange, unusual, and counterfeit, hosts spirits and devils in her home. The counterfeit bride who hitches herself to a red star keeps the portal open for Adam and Barbara, who seem to adopt her, spiritually speaking. The last thing I'll speak on is the Disney villain green that was present in the scenes dealing with death or the place of the dead. Because we are subject to the law of sin and death when we are not set free by the Savior. So the green tells me that death is the villain, and they know it. Thank you for enduring to the end. I pray you find it helpful as you grow in discernment and are not deceived. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and a thumbs down if you didn't. Subscribe if you want to, but don't follow me. Follow the one who saves you. And until the next time, keep looking up.
That is why I won't do 2 shows a night anymore, babe. I won't do.